Hey, guys. Tonight, we're stepping into the eerie world of Victorian England, where séances, spiritualist societies, and ghostly encounters weren't just fodder for horror stories, they were all the rage in the courtship scene. Imagine dimly lit parlors, lace-curtained rooms filled with smoke, and well-dressed couples holding hands around a table, their eyes fixed on a trembling candle flame. Now picture them trying to impress one another not with poetry or dance, but by attempting to communicate with the dead. Yes, tonight's journey takes you into the peculiar courtship rituals of Victorian ghost hunters, where a suitor's charm was measured by their ability to commune with the spirit world. You probably won't survive this bizarrely romantic night without feeling at least a little unsettled. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're watching this in the dark, let me know your time and location in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Victorians were nothing if not obsessed with death. For all their buttoned-up, prudish reputation, they had a curiously passionate relationship with the macabre. While you might imagine courtship in those days as a matter of chaperone strolls and stiff parlors, some couples took a more supernatural approach. Instead of picnics in the park, they opted for séances in candlelit rooms. The spiritualist craze swept through England in the mid-19th century, sparked by the infamous Fox sisters in America, who claimed to communicate with the dead through a series of mysterious knocks and raps. By the time the trend reached England, it had evolved into a full-fledged phenomenon. Parlors were converted into séance rooms complete with heavy drapes, darkened mirrors, and tables set with all the trappings of a spectral encounter. Now, imagine you're a young Victorian woman clad in layers of lace and velvet. You've caught the eye of a particularly dashing bachelor with mutton chop whiskers and a morbidly charming interest in ghosts. Rather than reciting love poems, he invites you to a séance at his aunt's manor. It's a gathering of like-minded spiritualists, all eager to contact the other side. You accept, of course. Who wouldn't want a glimpse into the great beyond? You arrive at the manor to find the room filled with nervous guests. The heavy curtains are drawn, blocking out the fading daylight. Candles flicker, casting odd shadows on the walls. The air smells of clove oil and stale tea. In the center of the room sits a circular table covered with a black velvet cloth. The medium, a pale woman with wild, darting eyes, instructs everyone to join hands. Concentrate, she says. Think only of your departed loved ones. They are near. They are listening. Your hand is in the grasp of the dashing bachelor. His palm is cold and slightly clammy. You can feel his pulse quickening, or is that yours? The medium closes her eyes, tilts her head back, and begins to sway. Is there anyone here with us tonight? She asks in a tremulous voice. Give us a sign. The room is silent. You can hear your own breathing slow and shallow. The candles flicker. Then a single, distinct knock echoes from beneath the table. Everyone gasps. Was it a spirit or just the creaking of old wood? The medium smiles knowingly. Yes, she says, someone is here. The bachelor squeezes your hand a little too tightly. Is he trying to impress you with his nerve, or is he just as unnerved as you are? In Victorian courtship, fear and fascination often blurred together. After all, there was nothing quite like a ghostly encounter to bring two people closer, literally, if only to cling to each other in the dark. And as the medium continues to murmur, her eyes rolling back into her head, you begin to wonder, who or what is really knocking under that table. The medium's eyes remain closed, her hands trembling as if she's holding back a tidal wave of spirits. The room is still except for the soft hiss of the candles. You steal a glance at the bachelor beside you. His jaw is clenched, his eyes fixed on the table, as though he's daring a ghost to show itself. In Victorian England, the parlor was more than just a place for afternoon tea. It was the epicenter of paranormal fascination. Séances weren't just for lonely widows or eccentric spinsters. They became a social affair, especially for the well-to-do. The wealthier the host, the grander the séance. And nothing was more impressive to potential suitors than a parlor filled with whispers from beyond the grave. You glance around the room, noting the other attendees. There's a woman in a crimson velvet gown, her eyes darting nervously toward the curtains. Beside her sits a man with a prominent mustache, tapping his finger on the table in time with the medium's chant. These aren't just spiritualists. They're also suitors, each one hoping to catch the eye of another through the veil of the supernatural. The medium continues to sway her fingers, tightening around yours. Spirit, if you're here, give us another sign. She intones her voice, heavy and hypnotic. Another knock, louder this time. The table jolts just a fraction of an inch. Someone gasps. The woman in the crimson gown clutches her lace collar, eyes wide. Your bachelor companion leans in closer, his breath warm against your ear. What do you think? He whispers, his voice tinged with both excitement and fear. What do you think indeed? You're aware that some spiritualists are known frauds using wires and hidden assistants to create ghostly illusions. But in the moment, with the room so hushed and the air so thick with anticipation, it's hard not to believe even just a little. Séances in Victorian England weren't just about contacting the dead. They were also a clever way to initiate contact with the living. Consider the act of holding hands. The medium insisted it was to form a psychic circle, but in reality, it was a socially acceptable excuse to press palms with your crush, to feel the slight squeeze of their fingers in the darkness. A thrill of fear could become a thrill of attraction, and a sudden knock from the other side was as good a reason as any to lean a little closer. And then there was the matter of eye contact. The medium, her eyelids fluttering as if in a trance, suddenly turns her gaze directly toward you. Her pupils are so dilated, they nearly swallow the whites of her eyes. I see a figure, she intones. A man, tall and dark. He's looking for his lost love. She points directly at you. You feel the eyes of the entire room shift in your direction. Your bachelor companion raises an eyebrow, his grip tightening on your hand. Who could that be? He murmurs, his tone playful, but his eyes sharp and intent. You open your mouth to respond, but before you can speak, the medium lets out a sharp gasp. Her head snaps back as if struck by some unseen force. The candles flicker, casting wild shadows across her face. He's here, she cries. He's here among us. There's a sudden, frigid gust of wind. The curtains billow inward as though caught by a storm. The woman in the crimson gown shrieks and drops her teacup. It shatters against the wooden floor, the sound echoing through the parlor like a gunshot. Your bachelor companion pulls you closer, his arm slipping around your shoulders. His pulse is racing. You can feel it through the sleeve of his coat. Don't be afraid, he whispers, his voice soft and earnest. I won't let anything happen to you. But as you glance back at the medium, her face frozen in a mask of terror, you begin to wonder who's protecting whom. In the flickering candlelight, the room feels smaller, as though the walls are closing in. The shadows stretch and warp, and the air grows colder still. Somewhere in the distance, a clock strikes the hour, an eerie hollow sound that reverberates through the parlor like the tolling of a funeral bell. And as the last chime echoes into silence, the medium's lips part, and in a voice not quite her own, she says, "Beware. He's not who you think he is." The medium's warning hangs heavy in the air like the lingering scent of burnt candle wax. You shiver, unsure whether it's the chill from the drafty parlor or the ominous words that have set your spine tingling. The bachelor beside you leans closer, his grip on your hand, tightening as though he's trying to anchor himself to something solid. "Not who you think he is," he mutters, brow furrowing. "What does that mean?" The medium's eyes remain rolled back, showing only the whites. Her body sways gently, her head lolling from side to side, as if her neck can barely support it. He walks among us. She whispers, her voice an eerie rasp. A spirit with unfinished business. Now, let's get one thing straight. Victorians loved a good ghost story, but they also loved their rules and social rituals, and nowhere were these more evident than in the bizarre courtship practices that emerged around séances. Picture it a gathering of eligible bachelors and blushing young ladies all holding hands around a table, all eyes fixed on the medium as she channeled messages from the dead. But beneath the surface, another conversation was taking place. You glance around the room again. The woman in the crimson gown is staring at the bachelor holding your hand, her expression unreadable. The mustachioed man beside her is watching the medium with an intensity that borders on obsession. Everyone is here for a reason, and not all of them are seeking spectral connections. Take the mustachioed man, for instance. He's one of those spiritualist society types, the kind who carries a notebook to record every knock and flickering candle. And he's particularly interested in the bachelor at your side. Why? Because séances weren't just for the lovelorn or the grieving. They were also fertile ground for deception. Imagine a young man of good fortune who happens to have inherited a haunted estate. The ladies swoon at the idea of a tragic, ghost-ridden hero, and he's all too happy to play the part, summoning spirits on cue and spinning tales of phantom visitors. But the mustachioed man knows better. He's seen this act before. He's seen men use the supernatural to ensnare unwitting heiresses. And as the bachelor whispers in your ear, you can't help but wonder how much of this is real and how much is a well-rehearsed performance. The medium lets out a sharp, shuddering breath. The spirit, he's trying to speak. She says, her voice suddenly deep and gravelly, as though someone else is speaking through her. "Beware the man who wears two faces." You glance at the bachelor. He's watching the medium with a look of intense concentration. His jaw is set, his eyes dark and glittering in the candlelight. "That's nonsense," he says, forcing a laugh. A parlor trick. You don't believe her, do you? But the medium is not finished. He walks in both worlds. She continues, her voice dropping to a low, eerie murmur. Living and dead. Flesh and shadow. Suddenly, the candle nearest you flares up a burst of light that makes everyone flinch. The woman in the crimson gown gasps, clutching the arm of the mustachioed man. The bachelor doesn't move. He's staring at the flame, his expression unreadable. And then just as quickly as it flared, the candle goes out. Smoke curls up from the blackened wick, the scent sharp and acrid. The room plunges into near darkness, the only light coming from the remaining candles, their flames flickering like nervous hearts. You realize then that the bachelor has let go of your hand. He's sitting back in his chair, arms crossed over his chest, eyes narrowed at the medium. "I've had enough of this charlatan nonsense," he says, his voice cold and clipped. "Let's go." But before you can rise, the mustachioed man clears his throat. "Leaving so soon?" he asks, his tone dripping with false sweetness. Afraid of what the spirits might reveal, the bachelor glares at him. "I don't believe in spirits," he snaps. "And neither should you." "Then what are you doing here?" the mustachioed man asks, leaning forward, his eyes glinting with challenge. "Seeking ghosts, or something else." For a moment, the room is dead silent. The medium slumps forward, her chin touching her chest as though she's fallen asleep. The woman in crimson releases a shaky breath, her hands trembling in her lap. The mustachioed man smiles a thin, smug smile that suggests he knows something you don't. The bachelor rises abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "This is absurd," he mutters, grabbing your hand. "Let's get some fresh air." You follow him out into the hallway, where the air is cooler and less oppressive. The heavy velvet drapes are drawn back, revealing a narrow window. Moonlight spills in, painting the floor with silver. The bachelor takes a deep breath, rubbing the back of his neck. "Are you all right?" you ask, your voice soft. "Fine," he says, but his gaze is fixed on the window. "It's just these séances, they get inside your head." And as he says it, you notice his reflection in the glass. For a split second, it doesn't quite match his expression. His lips are closed, but in the reflection, his mouth is moving, as though he's speaking words you can't hear. You blink, and it's gone. Just a trick of the candlelight, you tell yourself. Just a trick. But as the night deepens, you can't shake the feeling that you're being watched, not just by the living, but by something that walks in both worlds. The hallway stretches before you, dim and drafty, with long shadows cast by the flickering candelabras. The bachelor is still holding your hand, his grip firm but cold. His eyes remain fixed on the window, his jaw clenched as though he's biting back a secret. Inside the parlor, the séance continues, muffled voices rising and falling like a restless tide. You can hear the medium chanting softly, her words indistinct but rhythmic, as though she's fallen into a trance. The mustachioed man's voice is sharper, prodding and questioning, while the woman in the crimson gown whimpers. What does it mean? Who is he? But here in the hallway, it's just you and the bachelor. The silence between you is thick, almost suffocating. Finally, he turns to you, his eyes dark and intense. "You didn't believe that nonsense, did you?" he asks, his tone clipped, as if the very idea is an affront. You shake your head, but there's a hesitation you can't hide. "I don't know," you say. That voice, it didn't sound like her. The bachelor laughs a hollow, humorless sound. Parlor tricks, ventriloquism. There's a reason most of these mediums are women. Easier to fake a ghostly falsetto. You want to believe him. You really do. But there was something about the way the medium's head snapped back, the way her voice dropped to that unnaturally low pitch that makes your skin prickle, even now. And then, there was the look in her eyes, the way they fixed on you as if she could see straight through you and into your very soul. The bachelor's grip on your hand tightens, his nails pressing against your skin. "Let's get some air," he says, and without waiting for a response, he pulls you toward the back of the manor. The air outside is crisp and biting. The moon hangs high and swollen, casting an eerie silver glow over the overgrown garden. A chill wind whispers through the hedges, rustling the leaves like a chorus of ghostly sighs. The bachelor releases your hand and walks ahead, his boots crunching over gravel. You follow him, your heart thudding in your chest. The manor looms behind you, dark and foreboding, its windows black as empty eyes. From somewhere inside, you can still hear the faint murmur of the séance, a single haunting voice repeating, "He walks in both worlds, both worlds." Why did you bring me here, you ask, wrapping your arms around yourself to keep warm? The bachelor doesn't answer right away. He's staring up at the moon, his jaw working as though he's chewing on the words. Finally, he turns to face you, his expression unreadable. "I thought you'd like it," he says, but there's something in his voice, a tightness, a strain that suggests there's more to it. You take a step closer, your gaze searching his face. "What did she mean?" you ask, your voice dropping to a whisper. About the man with two faces. For a split second, his expression flickers, like a mask, slipping then snapping back into place. "I don't know," he says, but his eyes dart away, looking anywhere but at you. You hear it then, a soft rustle from the hedges. You whip your head around, a heart pounding. The wind, you tell yourself, just the wind. But then you hear it again, a low, drawn-out moan that rises and falls, like the breath of something unseen. The bachelor stiffens beside you. Did you hear that he asks, his voice taut, before you can answer? The moan comes again, louder this time. It's coming from the hedges, from somewhere deep in the tangled underbrush. You squint into the darkness, trying to make out a shape, a figure, anything. And then you see it, a flash of white moving through the leaves like a wraith. You gasp, grabbing the bachelor's arm. There you say, pointing. Do you see it? But he's already moving, striding toward the hedges with grim determination. "Stay here," he says, not looking back. You don't stay. You follow him, your feet crunching over the gravel as you hurry to keep up. The wind is stronger now, howling through the trees like a chorus of lost souls. The air smells of damp earth and rotting leaves. The bachelor pushes through the hedges branches, clawing at his coat. You follow close behind, heart pounding. The white shape is gone, vanished as quickly as it appeared. But the air is colder here, almost frigid, and the ground beneath your feet feels softer, looser, as though something has been recently dug up. The bachelor stops suddenly, his body rigid. You almost crash into him. "What is it?" you ask, breathless. He doesn't answer. He's staring down at the ground, at a patch of earth that's been freshly turned. You follow his gaze, and then you see it. There, half buried in the dirt, is a photograph. You crouch down, your fingers trembling as you brush away the loose soil. The photograph is old, the edges yellowed and curling. It shows a man and a woman standing side by side, both dressed in Victorian finery. The man is unmistakably the bachelor. Same dark eyes, same sharp jawline. But the woman, she's wearing a white gown, her hair cascading over her shoulders like a black river. Her eyes are wide and empty, her face frozen in a blank, lifeless stare. And around her neck is a delicate chain from which dangles a small silver locket, the same locket the bachelor is wearing right now. You glance up at him, your heart hammering. Who is she? You ask, your voice barely a whisper. The bachelor's jaw clenches. His eyes remain fixed on the photograph, his expression cold and distant. He swallows his throat, working. "She was my wife." Your breath catches in your throat. Was. His gaze finally meets yours, and in his eyes you see something dark, something haunted. "She's dead," he says, but she's not gone. The wind howls through the hedges, and somewhere in the distance you hear the low, mournful moan again. Closer this time, much closer. The photograph trembles in your hand, the image blurring as your fingers shake. The woman's eyes stare through you, her expression blank and lifeless. The bachelor's face is just as unsettling, a mask of indifference, beside the eerie spectral woman in white. You lift your eyes to the man standing before you. The moonlight casts sharp shadows across his face, and for a moment, it's as if his features shift, his jawline hardening, his eyes darkening. But then the moment passes, and he is just the man you know, or think you know, your wife. You manage to say your voice small against the wind that whistles through the hedges. The bachelor nods, his gaze dropping to the photograph. She died 2 years ago, he says, his tone flat. But she didn't leave. You swallow your throat tight. What do you mean? He closes his eyes, taking a slow, deep breath. It started small, he says. Whispered voices in empty rooms. Footsteps on the stairs. Doors opening and closing by themselves. His voice trembles, and you feel a shiver crawl down your spine. And then he continues. There were the messages, you echo, glancing nervously over your shoulder. The hedges rustle, as though something unseen is moving through them, circling closer. The bachelor's hand moves to the silver locket around his neck, his fingers curling around it. Yes, he says, notes, letters, things she wrote to me while she was alive. But after she was gone, you take a step back, your eyes wide. That's impossible. Is it? He asks, his voice heavy. Tell me, do you believe in ghosts? Before you can answer, a cold wind gusts through the garden, strong enough to tear the photograph from your hand. It flutters away, carried on the wind like a pale bird, vanishing into the night. You gasp, spinning around, eyes searching the darkness. But the photograph is gone. Only the sound of the wind remains howling like a distant wail. Did you see that, you ask? But the bachelor is already moving, his eyes locked on something deeper in the garden. You follow his gaze, squinting through the shadows. There, at the far end of the garden, stands a gazebo. It's old and rotting, the wood splintered and the paint peeling. And in the center of the gazebo stands a woman. She is draped in white, her gown trailing like mist over the wooden floorboards. Her hair is long and dark, tumbling over her shoulders like a black veil. And her eyes, they are fixed on you, wide, empty, and dark as the abyss. You grab the bachelor's arm. Is that? But he's already moving, his face pale as he strides toward the gazebo. You hurry after him, your heart pounding like a drumbeat in your ears. The closer you get, the colder the air becomes until it feels as though you're walking through a fog of ice. The woman doesn't move. She stands perfectly still, her eyes unblinking as you approach. The bachelor steps onto the gazebo, his shoes creaking on the wooden boards. Margaret, he says, his voice breaking. The woman tilts her head slightly, her hair shifting like a shroud. You came back, she says, her voice soft and hollow as though it's echoing from a great distance. You feel your blood run cold. This isn't possible. This can't be happening. But the bachelor drops to his knees before her, his hands trembling. I didn't mean to leave you, he says, his voice cracking. I didn't know how to let go. The woman's eyes are fixed on his, her gaze intense and unwavering. You never let me go, she whispers. You kept me here. The bachelor shakes his head, tears glistening in his eyes. I didn't mean to, he says. I was lost without you. I thought I could bring you back. The woman's face softens, her expression almost human. But you can't, she says, and her eyes shift to you. You can only bring her. You step back, your breath catching in your throat. Me, Yes, the woman says, her voice sharp as a knife. She can take my place. Before you can process what she means, the woman lifts her hands. They are long and pale, almost translucent, the fingers elongated and unnaturally slender. The air grows colder, and the wind howls louder, whipping through the gazebo like a tempest. "Margaret, no!" the bachelor shouts, lunging forward. But it's too late. The woman's eyes widen, her mouth opens, and from her lips comes a scream, a terrible, piercing wail that echoes through the garden, rattling the windows of the manor and sending a murder of crows fleeing into the night. You cover your ears, the sound reverberating through your skull like a scream inside your mind. The world tilts, the ground lurches beneath your feet, and the last thing you see before darkness takes you is the woman's face, twisted and monstrous, her eyes black as endless night. When you wake, the gazebo is empty. The woman is gone. The bachelor is slumped on the ground, his face buried in his hands. You sit up, your head pounding the cold air, stinging your cheeks. What? What just happened, you ask, your voice weak. The bachelor lifts his head, his eyes red and swollen. "She's gone," he whispers, "for now." But as the wind howls through the trees, carrying with it the faintest echo of that unearthly scream, you can't help but feel that she's still here, watching, waiting. You sit up, your hands still trembling from the scream that felt like it came from inside your very bones. The bachelor rises beside you, his movements slow and heavy, as though the air itself has thickened around him. His eyes are fixed on the gazebo, now empty, except for the swaying vines and the broken, rotting floorboards. "She's gone," he murmurs, but his voice is hollow, as if he's trying to convince himself as much as you. You pull yourself to your feet, your legs unsteady beneath you. The night air is biting now, each breath forming a white cloud in the cold. What did she mean? You ask, your voice barely more than a whisper. Take her place. What did she mean by that? The bachelor doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he turns away, his shoulders hunched against the wind. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," he says, his voice tight. "I just wanted to speak to her. Just once more." You follow him as he walks away from the gazebo, his steps heavy, his head bowed. The wind rustles the hedges, carrying whispers that sound eerily like Margaret's voice. You shiver, pulling your coat tighter around you. Inside the manor, the séance has ended. The guests are dispersing, the mustachioed man and the woman in crimson, exchanging hushed words as they pull on their cloaks. The medium slumps in her chair, her face pale, and drawn, her eyes half closed. When she sees you and the bachelor enter, she jolts upright, her gaze sharp and piercing. "You saw her, didn't you?" she says, her voice rough and raw. The bachelor flinches, avoiding her gaze. "You lied," he mutters. "You said she was gone." The medium's expression hardens. "I said she was at rest," she snaps. "But you brought her back." The room falls silent. The other guests watch with wide, frightened eyes, their faces pale and drawn. You feel the weight of their stares pressing down on you, as though they too are waiting for something to happen. "What do you mean he brought her back?" you ask, stepping forward. "How?" The medium's eyes narrow, her lips pressing into a thin line. "You don't know?" she asks, her gaze flicking to the bachelor. "You haven't told her." The bachelor's jaw clenches. "Told her what you demand, your heart pounding. What are you not telling me?" The medium lets out a long, shuddering breath, her shoulders sagging. "There was another séance," she says, her voice dropping to a whisper. 2 years ago. right after Margaret died. The room seems to darken the candle flames, guttering in a sudden cold draft. The medium's eyes are fixed on the bachelor, her expression haunted. He asked me to bring her back, she says. To summon her spirit, you stare at the bachelor, your stomach twisting. You did what? The bachelor closes his eyes, his jaw working as he grinds his teeth. I just wanted to see her again, he says, his voice tight. Just once more. I thought it would help me let go. And did it? The medium asks her, tone sharp as a knife. Did it help you let go? The bachelor doesn't answer. The silence stretches heavy and suffocating. Outside, the wind howls, rattling the windows like a desperate hand seeking entrance. What happened that night? You ask, your voice trembling. The medium's eyes darken. We summoned something, she says, but it wasn't Margaret. A chill runs down your spine. Then what was it? The medium shakes her head, her hands trembling as she presses them to her temples. Something that pretended to be her, she says. Something that wore her face. But it wasn't her. The bachelor lets out a shaky breath, his eyes fixed on the floor. I thought it was her, he whispers. She looked like her, sounded like her. But then, what you press your pulse quickening. The bachelor swallows his throat bobbing. But then she started asking for things he says. Strange things, pieces of her old life. The locket, her letters, photographs, objects that belong to her. The medium murmurs, her face pale as death. Objects that tie her spirit to this world. The bachelor nods, his eyes haunted. She said she needed them to move on, that she was trapped between worlds. But the more I gave her, the stronger she became, the more real. The medium leans forward, her eyes blazing. And now she's here, she says. Not just in the séance room, not just in the gazebo. She's everywhere, and she wants something. You take a step back, your heart pounding. What does she want? The medium's gaze locks onto yours, her eyes dark and unblinking. You, she says. She wants to take your place. Your blood runs cold. The room seems to spin the walls, closing in around you. The medium's words echo in your mind, each syllable dripping with dread. She wants to take your place. The bachelor moves toward you, his face stricken. I never meant for this to happen, he says, his voice breaking. I was just trying to say goodbye. But before you can respond, the wind howls through the room louder than before. The candles flicker wildly, the flames dancing, as though caught in a tempest. The guests gasp, some clutching each other, as the room fills with a bone-chilling cold. And then you hear it. The voice, Margaret's voice. It drifts through the room like a ghostly whisper, soft and echoing. You promised, it says. You said you'd bring me back. The bachelor freezes his eyes wide with terror. The medium's lips move, but no sound comes out. And then the voice speaks again louder, this time filling the room with a spectral wail. You said you'd let me live again. The wind howls, the flames gutter, and somewhere in the darkness, a door slams shut. You whirl around, searching for the source of the voice, but the room is empty. Empty, except for the shadows that seem to stretch and writhe as though something unseen is moving through them. And as the wind dies down, you hear the sound of footsteps, soft, slow, and deliberate. They echo through the hallway, moving closer. Closer. She's coming, the medium whispers, her eyes fixed on the door. And she's not alone. The footsteps echo through the hallway, each step measured and deliberate. You stand frozen, every nerve in your body screaming at you to run, but you can't move. The bachelor is beside you, his face ashen, his eyes locked on the darkened corridor. "She's coming," the medium whispers again, her voice tight and trembling. And she's not alone. The guests in the room glance nervously at each other, their faces pale and drawn. The mustachioed man shifts uneasily, his eyes darting from the medium to the hallway and back again. "What does she mean, not alone?" he asks, his voice low. The medium closes her eyes, her hands clutching the arms of her chair. Margaret is not the only one who answered the call, she says. "When we open the door to the other side, we let in others." The candles flicker wildly, casting elongated shadows that twist and writhe across the walls, like specters in a nightmare. You take a step back, the floor creaking beneath you, the cold seeping up through the soles of your shoes. "Others," you repeat, your voice shaking. "What kind of others?" The medium's eyes snap open, and they are dark, bottomless. "Lost ones," she says. "Spirits without bodies, shadows without names, and they're looking for a way back." A chill races down your spine, and you can feel the air around you grow colder, the temperature dropping so rapidly that your breath clouds the air in front of you. The wind outside rises to a howl, rattling the windows and making the glass panes tremble. The bachelor steps forward, his jaw clenched. "I never wanted this," he says, his voice raw. "I just wanted Margaret. I never meant to bring back anything else." The medium shakes her head, her lips set in a grim line. "It doesn't matter what you meant," she says. "Once the door is open, it cannot be closed." The footsteps draw closer, closer. They echo down the hallway, and with each step the room seems to darken, the candles flickering lower and lower until the only light left is the dim, wavering glow of a single flame. You can feel the pressure building in the room, a heavy, suffocating weight pressing down on your chest. The mustachioed man grips the back of his chair, his knuckles white. The woman in crimson shivers violently, her eyes fixed on the hallway. And then, from the shadows, a figure steps into the doorway. It's Margaret, or at least it looks like Margaret. She's wearing the same white gown, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders in long, tangled waves. But her eyes are black, so black they look like empty voids, and her mouth is set in a grim, unnatural smile. The bachelor gasps, his hand flying to his mouth. "Margaret," he whispers, taking a shaky step forward. The woman in white tilts her head, her empty eyes fixing on the bachelor. "You promised," she says, her voice echoing like 100 voices speaking in unison. "You said you'd let me live again." The bachelor shakes his head, his eyes wide with terror. "I tried," he says, his voice breaking. "I tried, but you're not her." The woman's smile widens, a grotesque, unnatural stretch of the lips that reveals far too many teeth. "Not her," she repeats, her head snapping to the side with a sickening crack. "But I am her, and I am so much more." You feel your knees buckle, your hands gripping the back of a chair to keep from collapsing. The air in the room thickens, growing colder and heavier until it feels like you're breathing through water. The woman in white steps closer, her bare feet leaving wet, dark footprints on the wooden floor. "You brought me back," she says, her eyes fixing on the bachelor. "You opened the door, and now it cannot be closed." The bachelor backs away, his shoulders pressed against the wall. "Please," he says, his voice trembling. "Margaret, I didn't mean to." "You lied," she hisses, her voice a low guttural snarl that reverberates through the room. "You said you loved me. You said you'd keep me here." "I did," the bachelor cries, tears streaming down his face. "I tried. I kept your letters, your locket. I did everything you asked." Margaret's head tilts further her neck, bending at an unnatural angle, her dark eyes fixed on you now. You, she says, her voice soft and terrible. You took my place. Your blood runs cold. What? No. You took my place. She repeats, her voice rising to a shriek that makes the candles gutter and die. The room plunges into total darkness, the only sound the ragged, terrified breathing of the guests. And then, from somewhere in the darkness, you hear them, the other voices. Whispers, moans, laughter. Hundreds of voices echoing through the room like a chorus of the damned. They call out names, they beg for release, they plead for help. And beneath it all, a single, terrible voice rises above the rest. "Let me in," Margaret says. "Let me in." A hand grabs your wrist and you scream, jerking away. But it's just the bachelor, his face pale as death, his eyes wide and frantic. "We have to get out of here," he says, his voice a hoarse whisper. "Now." But as he pulls you toward the door, the shadows in the room seem to thicken, coalescing into shapes humanoid forms with eyes that burn like embers in the darkness. They move toward you, their arms outstretched, their mouths open in silent, hungry screams. "Let me in." "Margaret," shrieks her voice, echoing through the room like a thunderclap. The walls tremble, the floor shakes, and the very air seems to vibrate with the force of her rage. And as you stumble through the darkness, your hand still clutched in the bachelor's, you realize that the séance is far from over. The door has been opened, and whatever has come through is not leaving without taking someone back with it. The hallway stretches before you, a dark and endless tunnel. The bachelor's hand is clammy in yours, his grip tightening as he pulls you forward. Behind you, the parlor is filled with whispers. Margaret's voice, but not just hers. The other voices rise and fall in a dreadful chorus, a cacophony of moans, cries, and chilling laughter. The bachelor doesn't speak. His eyes are fixed straight ahead, his jaw clenched, his breath coming in short, panicked gasps. You can hear the soft thud of your footsteps on the wooden floor, each step echoing like a heartbeat in the dark. Ahead, the corridor forks into two paths. The bachelor stops abruptly, his eyes darting left, then right. Which way, he mutters, his voice raw and shaky. "Which way do we go?" You swallow, your mouth dry. You've been here before, you say, your voice trembling. "Where does she want us to go?" The bachelor shakes his head, his eyes wild. "I don't know," he says. "I don't know anymore." Behind you, the whispers grow louder. You glance back and see them, the shadows. They're moving through the hallway, gliding along the walls like dark smears of ink. They're faceless, formless, but you can feel their eyes on you, watching, waiting. Choose the bachelor. Snaps, his grip tightening. Now, you look left. The hallway stretches into darkness, the floorboards creaking under an invisible weight. You look right. The corridor slopes downward, a staircase spiraling into the depths of the manor. The air from that direction is colder, damper, carrying with it the scent of earth and rot. "Down," you say, pointing to the staircase. We go down. The bachelor nods, his jaw set, and together you descend the stairs, the wooden steps groaning beneath your weight. The whispers follow, drifting down the stairwell like smoke. The basement is a different world. The air is colder, thicker, smelling of mold and wet stone. The walls are lined with shelves stacked high with old books, glass jars filled with cloudy liquid, and strange trinkets that glint in the faint, flickering candlelight. The bachelor moves ahead, his eyes scanning the shelves. "She kept them down here," he mutters almost to himself. "Everything she asked for." The locket, the letters, the hairbrush. You shiver your eyes, darting around the room. You kept them. The bachelor doesn't answer. He moves to a wooden chest in the corner of the room, the lid half open. Inside, you can see the items: a silver locket, its chain tangled, a stack of old yellowed letters tied with a black ribbon, a hairbrush, the bristles tangled with strands of dark hair. She said she needed them. The bachelor says, his voice hollow, she said they were the only way to bring her back. A sudden, sharp laugh echoes through the room, and you spin around, your heart racing. The shadows are here, pooling at the edges of the room, their forms shifting and undulating like smoke. The whispers grow louder, the air thickening with the scent of decay. The bachelor shoves the chest closed, his face pale. We need to burn them, he says, his voice urgent. If we destroy them, she can't come through. We can seal the door. You nod, your hands shaking as you reach for the chest. But before you can touch it, the air around you turns ice cold. The room seems to tilt, the walls closing in. And then you hear her voice. Why would you do that? You freeze. Margaret's voice echoes through the room, soft and chilling. You turn around, and she is standing in the doorway. Her white gown billows around her, her dark hair hanging like wet ropes over her shoulders. Her eyes are black voids, her skin stretched tight over sharp, angular bones. The bachelor steps back, his breath hitching. Margaret smiles, a slow, terrible smile that stretches her mouth far too wide. You promised, she says, her voice echoing like 100 whispers layered atop one another. You said you'd let me live again. The bachelor shakes his head, his back pressing against the wall. I can't, he says. You're not her. You're something else. Margaret's face twitches, her mouth twisting in rage. Not her, she hisses, and suddenly the shadows surge forward, swirling around her like a living shroud. I am her, and I am more than her. You gave me the power to come back. You called me back. The shadows crawl up the walls, slithering like snakes. You back away, your hands fumbling for something solid to hold on to. The room is spinning, the air vibrating with the sound of Margaret's voice. You took my place, she says, her eyes locking onto you. You walked in my world. Now, it's my turn to walk in yours. The bachelor lurches forward, his hands outstretched. No, he shouts. Leave her alone. Take me instead. Margaret's eyes flash, and she raises one hand. The shadows leap forward, wrapping around the bachelor like black, writhing tendrils. He gasps, his face contorting in pain, his body convulsing, as the shadows drag him to his knees. Stop, you scream, rushing forward. But the shadows push you back, their cold, wet grip biting into your skin. You struggle, but it's like fighting through thick, heavy fog. Margaret steps closer, her face inches from the bachelor's. You lied. She whispers, her eyes black as the void. You said you loved me. You said you'd never let me go. I didn't. He chokes out, his eyes rolling back. I didn't. And then, with a flick of her wrist, the shadows surge forward, swallowing him whole. The room goes dark, the whispers rising to a deafening pitch. You cover your ears, sinking to the floor. Your eyes squeezed shut as the world around you dissolves into darkness and screaming. When the noise finally stops, the room is silent. The air is heavy, the silence thick and suffocating. You open your eyes. The room is empty. The bachelor is gone. The chest is gone. The shadows have receded, slithering back into the walls like ink into a sponge. Margaret stands in the center of the room, her eyes closed, her face serene. And then she opens her eyes. They are no longer black voids. They are his eyes dark haunted and unmistakably his. "Thank you," she says, her voice the bachelor's voice. "Now I can stay." You press your back against the wall, your heart pounding in your chest, because you realize in that terrible suffocating silence that the man you knew is gone, and Margaret is wearing his skin. The air hangs heavy, a suffocating stillness settling over the room. You stare at Margaret, or what used to be Margaret, as she stands in the center of the basement. Her face is still hers, but the eyes are not. They are his dark and haunted, staring at you with a mixture of desperation and triumph. "Now I can stay," she says, her lips moving in perfect sync with the bachelor's voice. The sound is wrong, the cadence too slow, too deep. It's as if she's trying on his voice like a new coat, testing its fit. You press your back against the wall, your heart hammering. What did you do to him?" Margaret tilts her head, her dark hair spilling over one shoulder like a curtain of black ink. "He wanted me back," she says, her voice echoing strangely. "He brought me to this world piece by piece. The locket, the letters, the hair, but it wasn't enough. I needed something more." You shake your head, bile rising in your throat. "So you took him," you say, your voice quivering. "You took his body." Margaret, or whatever she has become, smiles, her lips stretching too wide, the skin at the corners of her mouth cracking and bleeding. "I only took what he gave," she says, stepping closer. "He opened the door. I just walked through." You edge away, your back pressing against the cold, damp wall. The room feels smaller now, the ceiling lower. The shadows cling to the corners like ink stains, shifting and swirling as though watching, waiting. "Where is he?" you ask, your voice barely above a whisper. "Where's the real him?" Margaret's eyes glint, and for a brief moment they shift. You see him in there, the bachelor, his face twisted in agony, his mouth moving silently as though screaming from behind a glass wall. Then the expression vanishes, and Margaret is in control again. "He's here," she says, tapping her temple with one long, thin finger. "And here." She presses a hand to her chest, where the silver locket hangs, its chain tangled around her slender neck. "But he can't come back now. This body is mine." You feel the walls closing in the air, thickening until it's hard to breathe. You have to get out. You have to get away from her. But as you inch toward the door, Margaret's eyes follow you, dark and unblinking. Leaving so soon, she asks, her voice lilting, playful. "We haven't even had our reunion." You swallow your back, hitting the doorframe. "I'm not part of this," you say, your voice shaking. "I never asked for this." "But he did," Margaret says, taking another step closer. "And you're part of him now." You shake your head, sweat beading on your forehead. "You're not her," you say, your voice stronger now. "You're not Margaret. You're just something that wears her face." Margaret's expression hardens. The air grows colder, the shadows thickening, pressing in. "I am her," she hisses, her voice dropping to a low, guttural rasp. "I am her, and so much more. And now that I have a body again, I can be anything, anyone." Before you can move, her hand shoots out her icy fingers, wrapping around your wrist like a manacle. Her grip is impossibly strong, her nails digging into your skin, drawing blood. "Don't you want to stay?" she whispers, leaning in close. You can feel her cold breath on your cheek, smell the scent of earth and decay. "Don't you want to stay with us forever?" You yank your arm free, stumbling backward. Your heel catches on the edge of a loose floorboard, and you go down hard, your back slamming against the cold stone floor. The impact knocks the air from your lungs, and for a moment, all you can do is lie there, gasping, staring up at the ceiling. Above you, Margaret looms, her dark hair hanging like a curtain around her face, her eyes glittering in the dim light. He thought he could bring me back, she says, her voice almost dreamy. He thought he could bring me back and keep me here, but he forgot one thing. You scramble backward, your palms scraping against the rough floor. What you manage to gasp. Margaret smiles, and for a moment her eyes shift again. His eyes, the bachelor's eyes, staring out at you with a look of sheer, unfiltered terror. Once the door is open, she says, anyone can walk through. The room shakes. The walls tremble, dust and debris raining down from the ceiling. The shadows surge forward, their shapes twisting and writhing, forming long, grasping arms that stretch toward you. You scramble to your feet, your heart pounding, your breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The door's just a few feet away. You lunge for it, your fingers closing around the cold brass handle. But as you pull the door open, a blast of icy wind knocks you backward. You hit the floor again, your head spinning, stars bursting behind your eyes. The wind roars through the room, carrying with it the sound of voices, hundreds of voices, all screaming, all pleading, all calling your name. You press your hands to your ears, trying to block them out, but it's no use. The voices are inside your head, inside your bones, clawing at you from the inside out. And then, through the chaos, you hear her voice. Margaret's voice. Let me in. She whispers, her face inches from yours, her dark hair falling like a curtain around you both. Let me in, and I'll make it all stop. You shake your head, tears streaming down your face. No, you choke out. You can't have me. Margaret's eyes narrow, her expression hardening. Then you'll join him, she says, her voice as cold as the grave. You'll join all of them. The shadows surge forward, their dark tendrils wrapping around your arms, your legs, your throat. You struggle, kicking and thrashing, but it's no use. The room is spinning, the walls melting away, the world dissolving into darkness and cold, and that terrible, endless chorus of screaming voices. And as the last bit of light fades away, you hear her laugh. Margaret's laugh. The bachelor's laugh. The two voices merging, becoming one. You brought me back, she says, her voice echoing all around you. Now you're coming with me. And then there is nothing but darkness. You don't know how much time has passed when the darkness finally recedes. You open your eyes to find yourself lying on the cold stone floor of the basement. The air is heavy, pressing down on you like a weighted shroud. The room is empty. No Margaret, no bachelor, no shadows, just silence. You sit up slowly, your head throbbing, your limbs aching, as though you've been dragged through ice and mud. The door to the hallway stands open, the only light coming from a single candle sputtering in the far corner of the room. You pull yourself to your feet, one hand braced against the wall to steady yourself. The walls are wet, dripping with dark, oily streaks that slide down to the floor and pool in inky puddles. You shudder, stepping around them, your eyes darting nervously from shadow to shadow. Something is wrong. The air feels too thick, too heavy. It's as if the entire room is breathing, exhaling long, slow breaths that carry the scent of rot and decay. You move toward the doorway, your feet dragging across the stone floor. As you reach the threshold, you hear it, the unmistakable sound of whispers. They echo from somewhere deep within the house, growing louder and louder, overlapping. until they form a single terrible chorus. Let me in. Let me in. Let me in. You clench your fists, forcing yourself to breathe. The voices seem to be coming from the parlor, the place where the séance first began. You step into the hallway, the boards creaking beneath your feet. The walls are streaked with those same dark, oily stains, and the air is thick with the scent of burning candles and wet earth. The hallway stretches before you, the end shrouded in darkness. You move forward, each step echoing like a heartbeat in the stillness. The whispers grow louder, each word slithering through the air like a cold, wet breath. You reach the parlor and stop dead in your tracks. The room is empty, but the table remains. The chairs are all arranged in a perfect circle, as though the séance never ended. The candles have burned down to nubs, their flames sputtering weakly, casting long, flickering shadows on the walls. And in the center of the table lies the silver locket. Its chain is twisted and knotted, the clasp hanging open like a gaping mouth. The locket itself pulses faintly, as though a tiny heart is beating inside it. You take a hesitant step forward, your eyes fixed on the locket. The whispers surround you, echoing through the room, filling your ears until they drown out everything else. Let me in. Let me in. You reach for the locket, your hand trembling. The metal is icy cold against your skin, the chain sliding like a serpent through your fingers. You lift it, holding it up to the weak candlelight. The surface is scratched and dented, the once polished silver now tarnished and blackened. You open it. Inside is a tiny photograph, yellowed with age. It's the same photograph you saw before The Bachelor, and Margaret standing side by side, their faces expressionless. But now, there's something else. Behind them in the background, there's a third figure. A shadowy figure standing just behind Margaret, its face hidden in darkness. Its hands rest on her shoulders, long, thin fingers pressing into her skin. You slam the locket, shut your breath, coming in sharp, shallow gasps. The whispers rise to a crescendo, the words blurring into one long, drawn-out wail. Let me in. The door to the hallway slams shut behind you, the sound echoing through the house like a gunshot. You whirl around the locket, still clutched in your hand. The room is empty, but the shadows dance wildly across the walls, shifting and writhing like they're alive. And then you see her. Margaret stands at the far end of the room, her white gown trailing like mist over the floor. Her eyes are dark, empty, and fixed on you. Behind her, the shadows twist and coil, forming the shapes of hands. Faces open mouths, screaming silently. You took my place, she says, her voice as cold as the grave. You walked through the door. Now you're one of us. The room begins to shake, the floorboards buckling beneath your feet. The candles flare up their flames, shooting high, filling the room with blinding light. Margaret takes a step forward, her mouth stretching into a wide, unnatural grin. Join us, she whispers. Let us in. The walls close in the ceiling, lowering the shadows, pressing in from all sides. You back away, your heart hammering your breath, coming in sharp, shallow gasps. The locket pulses in your hand, the chain tightening around your wrist like a shackle. Margaret takes another step, her eyes wide and empty, her dark hair floating around her like a halo of black smoke. You opened the door, she says, her voice echoing from all sides. Now it's your turn to walk through. The floor drops out from beneath you. You fall, tumbling through darkness, the world spinning, twisting, stretching around you. The whispers rise to a deafening pitch, 1,000 voices screaming your name, clawing at your skin, tearing at your clothes. You hit the ground with a bone-jarring thud. The room is gone. The house is gone. You're lying in a vast, empty space, the ground beneath you cold and wet like damp earth. The air is heavy, thick, pressing down on you from all sides. You sit up, your eyes straining against the darkness. You're not alone. The shadows move around you, shifting, slithering, forming shapes and figures. Faces emerge from the darkness, pale, hollow-eyed mouths open in silent screams. They surround you, their hands reaching out, clawing at you, their eyes dark and empty. Margaret steps forward, her face inches from yours. Her eyes are black voids, her mouth a gaping chasm lined with jagged, broken teeth. You opened the door. She whispers, her breath freezing against your skin. Now, you're one of us. The shadows close in their hands, clutching at your arms, your legs, your throat. You try to scream, but no sound escapes. The darkness swallows you whole, the world dissolving into a sea of black. The voices screaming, laughing, crying. And then, just as you're about to disappear completely, you hear a voice faint, distant, but unmistakable. Help me, it's the bachelor. Somewhere in the darkness, he's still there, still trapped, still fighting. And so are you. The darkness presses in around you, heavy and suffocating. The whispers coil through the air like mist, each syllable dripping with malice. You push yourself up, your hands sinking into the damp, cold ground beneath you. The surface is wet and spongy like the floor of a crypt. Help me. The bachelor's voice is faint, barely more than a whisper. But it's there, somewhere in the blackness. You scramble to your feet, your heart pounding, your breath fogging in the icy air. Where are you? You call your voice, echoing through the void. The sound is swallowed instantly, as though the air itself is consuming it. The shadows shift around you, moving like ink in water. Faces flicker in the dark. Margaret's face, her eyes empty and black, her mouth stretched into a grin that's far too wide. And behind her other faces, countless faces, all staring at you, all whispering the same thing. Let me in, let me in. You take a step forward, your hands trembling. The ground beneath your feet squelches and gives way, the mud clinging to your shoes like cold, dead hands. The darkness is so thick, so absolute, that it's impossible to tell where one shadow ends and another begins. But then you hear it again. Help me, please. The bachelor's voice is louder, now closer. You move toward it, your eyes straining against the darkness. The whispers follow you, slithering through the air, brushing against your skin like icy breath. Help me. You stumble forward, and suddenly the ground drops away beneath you. You gasp, your arms flailing as you tumble down, down, down. The air whistles past your ears, cold and sharp as a knife. You hit the ground hard, the impact knocking the breath from your lungs. You lie there, gasping, your chest heaving. The ground beneath you is colder now, almost icy, and the air smells of wet stone and mildew. You push yourself up, your hands shaking, your eyes darting around. You're in a corridor. The walls are damp, the stones slick with dark, glistening moss. The ceiling arches overhead so low that you can feel the cold, dripping stone just above your head. The corridor stretches endlessly in both directions, a yawning tunnel that seems to swallow the light. Help me! The bachelor's voice echoes through the corridor, the sound bouncing off the walls like a desperate plea. You turn toward the sound, your heart racing, and start to run. The whispers rise around you, their voices overlapping until they form a single dreadful chant. Let me in. Let me in. me in. You run faster, your feet pounding against the wet stone, the air thick and heavy. The corridor twists and turns the walls, narrowing until they're pressing in on you from all sides. The whispers grow louder, each word, a knife slicing through the air. Help me. You round a corner, and there he is, the bachelor. He's standing in the center of the corridor, his back to you, his shoulders slumped. His hair is wet, dripping down the back of his neck, and his clothes are stained with mud. And something darker, something that smells like blood. "Are you all right?" you gasp, stumbling forward. "Are you?" He turns around, and you freeze. It's his face, but it's not. His eyes are dark, hollow, empty. His skin is stretched tight over his skull, his mouth twisted into a rictus grin. And when he speaks, it's not his voice that comes out. It's hers. "You took my place," he says, his lips barely moving. "You walked through the door. Now it's your turn to stay." You back away, your hands raised. "You're not him." You whisper, your voice shaking. "You're not." He takes a step forward, his grin widening his eyes, black and soulless. "You brought me back," he says, his voice echoing down the corridor. "You called me here. And now, you're never leaving." The walls around you close and the stones pressing against your shoulders, your arms, your throat. The bachelor, or whatever he has become, moves closer, his eyes burning like twin coals in the dark. "Let me in," he whispers, his voice, Margaret's voice. "Let me in." The walls squeeze tighter, the stones grinding against your skin, cold and unyielding. You can feel your chest compressing your lungs, straining for air. The whispers swirl around you louder and louder, rising to a deafening pitch. And then, just as you feel the walls crushing the breath from your body, a hand grabs your wrist. You gasp, your eyes flying open. The walls are gone. The corridor is gone. You're back in the basement, lying on the stone floor. The air is cold, the room shrouded in shadows. And standing over you is the bachelor. His eyes are his own again, wide and wild, filled with terror. His hair is matted with sweat, his chest heaving as though he's just run a great distance. "You're still here," he says, his voice breaking. "Thank God you're still here." You sit up, your head spinning. What happened? The bachelor shakes his head, his eyes darting around the room. "She tried to take you," he says, his voice raw. "She tried to pull you through." You shiver, wrapping your arms around yourself. "Through what?" The bachelor's jaw clenches. "Through the door," he says, "the one I opened." Before you can respond, the floor beneath you trembles. The shadows shift, slithering across the walls like ink in water. The air grows colder, the room darkening, until it feels like night has swallowed the world. The whispers return, rising from the walls, the floor, the very air around you. "Let me in. Let me in. Let me in." The bachelor grabs your hand, his grip cold and desperate. "We have to get out of here," he says, pulling you to your feet. Before she pulls us through, but as you turn toward the door, it slams shut with a deafening crash. The shadows surge forward, coiling around the walls, the floor, the ceiling. The whispers rise to a fever pitch, the voices overlapping, drowning each other out until they form one single terrifying scream. "Let me in." And then, in the center of the room, Margaret appears. She is no longer human. Her skin is as white as bone, her eyes dark and empty, her mouth a gaping black hole that stretches from ear to ear. Her hair floats around her head like dark, tendrils of seaweed. Her arms outstretched as though to embrace you. You opened the door, she says, her voice echoing through the room, her eyes fixed on you. Now, it's time for you to walk through. The walls close in. The floor gives way. And you feel yourself falling into darkness. You're falling. The darkness swallows you whole, a vast, endless void that stretches in every direction. The air is frigid, each gust slicing through you like icy knives. You try to scream, but the sound is ripped away, swallowed by the abyss. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the fall ends. You hit the ground hard, the impact jarring every bone in your body. The air rushes from your lungs in a painful gasp, and for a moment all you can do is lie there dazed and shivering. The floor beneath you is cold and slick. You push yourself up your hands, sinking into wet, spongy earth. The air is heavy, thick with the scent of damp soil and rotting leaves. You blink your eyes, adjusting to the dim, murky light. You're in a forest. The trees tower above you, their branches gnarled and twisted, their leaves hanging like tattered shrouds. The ground is a carpet of dead leaves, each one slick with a black, oily substance that stains your palms as you push yourself to your feet. The air is still unnaturally quiet, as though the entire world is holding its breath. But you're not alone. The whispers return, drifting through the trees like a cold wind. You turn your heart hammering and see them. Shadows. Dozens of them, their forms shifting and writhing like ink spilled across the ground. Their eyes glint in the darkness, their mouths open in silent, hungry screams. They're all around you, encircling you like a pack of wolves. You back away, your hands trembling. The trees close in their branches, reaching down like grasping fingers. You brought us here, the whispers say, echoing through the forest. You opened the door. You shake your head, your pulse pounding in your ears. No, you whisper. I didn't. You let us in. The whispers continue, their voices overlapping until they become a single echoing chorus. Now you can never leave. You spin around, searching for a way out, but the shadows are everywhere. Faces emerge from the darkness. Margaret's face, her dark hair hanging limp and wet, her eyes wide and empty. And behind her, the bachelor, his face twisted into a rictus grin, his eyes dark and soulless. You said you'd help me, he says, his voice a hollow echo. You said you'd stay. You stumble backward, your feet slipping in the mud. The ground gives way beneath you, and you fall, landing hard on your back. The shadows loom over you, their faces leaning down, their eyes fixed on yours. You took our place, they say, their voices hissing through clenched teeth. Now you're one of us. The shadows surge forward, their hands reaching for you, their fingers stretching like tendrils of black smoke. You scream, rolling to the side, just as they hit the ground, where you were lying, their hands sinking into the earth like claws. You scramble to your feet, your breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The forest is spinning around you, the trees twisting and bending like living things. The shadows rise again, their eyes glinting in the darkness, their mouths open in wide, silent screams. You turn and run. Branches whip at your face, snagging in your hair, tearing at your clothes. The ground is uneven, the mud sucking at your feet with every step. The whispers follow you, growing louder, rising to a fever pitch. Let us in. Let us in. Let us in. You don't dare look back. You run faster, your lungs burning, your legs aching. The trees close in the branches, reaching for you, each one a claw, each leaf a razor. And then, through the trees, you see it, a house. It's the manor. The same manor you were in before, only now it's different. The windows are dark, the walls crumbling, the roof sagging inward like a rotten tooth. The air is heavy with the scent of mold and decay, and the front door hangs open, swinging back and forth on rusted hinges. But it's a way out. You sprint toward it, your heart pounding, your breath coming in ragged gasps. The whispers rise behind you, the shadows surging forward, their eyes burning with hunger. You reach the door, grab the handle, and throw yourself inside. The door slams shut behind you with a deafening crash. The house shudders, the walls creaking as though under immense pressure. You lean against the door, your chest heaving, your eyes scanning the dark, empty foyer. It's the same room, the same place where the séance began. But now it's in ruins. The walls are covered in dark, wet stains, the floorboards warped and buckling. The chandelier hangs from the ceiling, its glass shards shattered and strewn across the floor. You take a step forward, the floor groaning beneath your weight. The air is colder now, so cold that each breath comes out as a cloud of mist. The whispers have stopped. The house is silent, and then you hear it. A single, soft, familiar voice. Help me. It's the bachelor. You spin around, your eyes wide. The voice is coming from somewhere deep within the house, echoing up from below, from the basement. You swallow your throat dry. You should leave. You should run as far and as fast as you can. But his voice is louder now, more urgent. Help me, please. You grit your teeth, your fists clenched. You can't leave him. Not after everything. Not after he tried to save you. You move toward the basement door, your feet dragging your entire body, screaming at you to turn back. But you keep moving forward, your breath fogging the air in front of you, each step echoing through the empty, ruined house. You reach the basement door. It stands half open, a black, gaping maw that seems to stretch endlessly downward. The air that wafts up is freezing, carrying the scent of wet earth and something else. Something foul. You take a deep breath, step inside, and descend. The stairs creak beneath your feet, each step groaning like a dying man's breath. The darkness is so thick, you can't see your own hand in front of your face. The air grows colder, heavier, pressing down on you like a shroud. You reach the bottom of the stairs, your foot touching wet, icy ground. You strain your ears listening. The whispers are gone. The house is silent. Help me. The bachelor's voice is right behind you. You whirl around, and there he is. He's standing in the center of the basement, his back to you. His head is bowed, his arms hanging limp at his sides. His clothes are soaked through dripping dark, oily liquid onto the floor. Are you all right? You ask, your voice shaking. Are you? He turns around. His eyes are black voids, empty and soulless. His mouth stretches open far too wide, and from his throat comes a single, terrible, echoing wail. Let me in. The shadows surge forward, wrapping around your legs, your arms, your throat. You gasp, clawing at them, but they tighten their grip, pulling you down, down into the dark. And as the world goes black, you hear Margaret's voice, soft and sweet, echoing in your ear. You open the door, she whispers. Now it's time to come inside. The darkness swallows you thick and endless. You're falling again, the air rushing past you like a frigid wind, the whispers echoing in your ears. The bachelor's scream is the last thing you hear. before the world drops away entirely, leaving you suspended in a vast, empty void. Then, with a bone-jarring crash, you hit the ground. The impact sends a shockwave of pain through your body, your skull rattling against the cold, wet earth. You groan, rolling onto your back, your vision swimming as you try to focus. Above you, there is nothing. No ceiling, no walls. Just a vast expanse of darkness, stretching infinitely in every direction. The ground beneath you is soft, spongy, and freezing cold, like freshly dug earth. You shiver, your breath fogging in the icy air. And then you hear it. The whispers, they rise from the ground, drifting up through the air like steam. The voices overlap, countless and indistinct, each one calling, pleading, screaming. You sit up, your heart pounding, your eyes darting around. The darkness pulses, shifts, and then you see them. They emerge from the ground like bodies rising from graves, pale, gaunt figures with hollow eyes and mouths stretched open in silent screams. They surround you, their forms flickering and shifting like candle flames in a strong wind. One of them steps forward. It's Margaret, or what's left of her. Her eyes are black voids, her hair hanging in wet matted clumps over her face. Her skin is pale, almost translucent, and as she moves closer, you can see her bones pressing against her skin like jagged rocks beneath a thin sheet of ice. "You brought me here," she says, her voice a hollow echo that reverberates through the darkness. You open the door. You scramble backward, the wet earth sucking at your hands. "I didn't do anything," you say, your voice shaking. It was him. He opened it. Margaret tilts her head, her lips pulling back into a gruesome grin. "And now, it's your turn," she says, her eyes gleaming like twin black holes. "You let me in. Now you stay." The ground trembles beneath you, the earth shifting and groaning. As more shadows rise from the darkness, they surround you, closing in their hands, reaching their fingers long and thin, like branches stripped of bark. You push yourself to your feet, your breath coming in sharp, panicked gasps. The shadows press closer, their hollow eyes fixed on you, their mouths moving soundlessly, forming words that you can't hear but can feel vibrating through your bones. "Stay! Stay! Stay!" You turn to run, but the ground gives way beneath your feet. You stumble, falling face first into the cold, wet earth. Mud fills your mouth, your nose, and you choke, clawing at the ground, your fingers sinking deep into the soft, dark soil. Then a hand grabs your wrist. You gasp, jerking your head up. The bachelor is kneeling in front of you, his face inches from yours. His skin is pale, almost blue, and his eyes are wide, dark, and unblinking. "They took me," he whispers, his voice raw and ragged. "They took me through." You shake your head, tears stinging your eyes. "I tried to help you." You say, your voice breaking. "I tried. It's not too late," he says, his grip tightening around your wrist. "You can still get out, but you have to close the door." The ground shifts beneath you, the earth quaking as more shadows rise, their hands clawing at you, their whispers rising to a deafening pitch. "Stay, stay, stay!" You pull your arm free, scrambling to your feet. The bachelor rises too, his body swaying unsteadily. The shadows press in from all sides, their eyes dark and empty, their mouths open in silent, hungry screams. "What door?" you shout, your voice barely audible over the din. "How do I close it?" The bachelor's eyes flick to a point behind you. "There," he says, pointing. "The mirror." You turn. There, rising out of the ground like a gravestone, is a tall, ornate mirror. Its surface is cracked and splintered, its glass smeared with dark, oily streaks. But in its reflection, you can see them. The shadows, the dead, all of them crowded behind you, their eyes fixed on you, their hands reaching. It's the door, the bachelor says, his voice urgent. Close it, and they go back. All of them. You swallow your throat dry, your heart hammering. The mirror pulses the glass, vibrating the surface, rippling like black water. You step forward, the shadows closing in behind you, their hands clawing at your back, your legs, your arms. Close it, the bachelor says, his voice growing fainter. Close it, or you'll never get out. You reach the mirror, your breath fogging the glass. The surface ripples the darkness inside, swirling, forming shapes and faces. Margaret's face, her dark eyes staring out at you, her mouth twisted into that same ghastly grin. You took my place, she says, her voice a whisper in your ear. Now you're mine. Her hands shoot out of the mirror, grabbing your wrists. Her fingers are ice cold, her nails sharp as knives. You scream, struggling against her grip, but she's too strong. The glass cracks beneath her hands, spider webbing out in all directions, the shards splintering, cutting into your skin. You brought me here, she says, her mouth inches from yours. Now you're coming with me. The mirror shatters. You're pulled forward, the glass slicing through your skin. The darkness rushing up to meet you like a tidal wave. You're falling again, deeper and deeper, the world spinning around you. Margaret's laughter echoing through the void. But then, just as you're about to be swallowed whole, a hand grabs your arm. The bachelor, his face is pale, his eyes wide, his teeth clenched, as he pulls you back through the glass, back through the dark. The shards slice at you, cutting through your clothes, your skin. But you keep pulling, keep struggling, until you hit the ground, landing hard on the wooden floor of the parlor. The mirror is gone. The room is empty. The candles have burned down to puddles of wax, the air heavy and still. The bachelor lies beside you, his chest heaving, his face drenched in sweat. You sit up, the room spinning around you, your skin stinging with 1,000 tiny cuts. It's over. You gasp, your voice shaking. It's over. But then, from somewhere deep in the house, you hear it. The whisper, "Let me in." You lie there on the cold wooden floor, your chest rising and falling as you struggle to catch your breath. The room is silent, but the silence is heavy, pressing down on you like a shroud. You sit up slowly, your head throbbing, the ache of 1,000 tiny cuts stinging your skin. Beside you, the bachelor is still. His eyes are closed, his face pale, his chest rising and falling in shallow, uneven breaths. You reach for him, your hand shaking. "Hey," you say, your voice a hoarse whisper. Are you still here?" His eyes flutter open, dark and glassy. For a moment, he just stares at you as if trying to remember who you are. Then his lips part and he whispers, "We didn't close it." A chill races down your spine. You glance around the room, the shattered glass scattered across the floor like jagged shards of ice. The mirror is gone. The walls are still. But the air is wrong. It's colder now. A biting, numbing cold that seeps through your clothes, chilling you to the bone. You rub your arms, trying to warm yourself, but it's no use. The cold isn't just in the air, it's in the walls, in the floor, in the very foundation of the house. And then you hear it, a soft, slow, deliberate creaking, like footsteps. You and the bachelor exchange a look, your eyes wide. The sound is coming from above, from the floor above you. The ceiling creaks again, the boards groaning as though under immense weight. Someone's up there, the bachelor says, his voice strained. But we're alone, aren't we? You push yourself to your feet, your knees shaking. The room spins around you, and for a moment, the walls seem to ripple, the shadows stretching and distorting like ink in water. You close your eyes, take a deep breath, and open them again. The room is still. Where's the door, you ask, your voice unsteady. The bachelor blinks, his brow furrowing. The door. You turn in a slow circle, your heart hammering in your chest. The door to the hallway is gone. The walls are solid, seamless, the wallpaper peeling in long, curling strips. There is no exit, no way out. It's not over. The bachelor, says his voice hollow. She's still here. The footsteps creak again, louder this time. Closer. You press your back against the wall, your fingers digging into the rotting wallpaper. The floorboards above groan and snap, and then thud. A loud, heavy thud, as though something has fallen to the floor. You look up, your heart pounding. The ceiling is sagging now, the boards bulging as if something is pressing down from above. Dust rains down, settling in your hair, your eyes, your mouth. You cough, covering your face with your arm. And then the voice comes. Let me in. It's Margaret's voice. But it's different now. Deeper, darker. As though 100 voices are speaking through her, each one layered over the next. Each one echoing through the walls, the floor, the air itself. The ceiling sags lower, the boards, bowing beneath the weight of whatever is up there. You and the bachelor lock eyes, and you know without a doubt that you have to move. Now, you grab his arm, pulling him toward the corner of the room just as the ceiling gives way with a deafening crash. The floorboards splinter wood and dust exploding into the air. You cover your head, the debris raining down around you in a hail of broken wood and shattered glass. When the dust settles, you lift your head and stare. There, lying in the center of the room, is a body. It's Margaret, or what's left of her. Her white gown is tattered and stained, her dark hair matted with dirt and blood. Her limbs are twisted, her bones jutting at odd angles, and her eyes are black voids, empty, and staring fixed on the ceiling. The bachelor staggers backward, his hand pressed over his mouth. No, he whispers. No, no, no. You crawl toward her, your heart hammering. Her mouth is open, her jaw slack, her lips moving as though she's trying to speak. You lean closer, the air around her frigid and sharp, and then her eyes snap to you. You gasp, scrambling backward, your back slamming against the wall. Margaret's head jerks toward you, her neck twisting with a sickening crack. Her mouth moves, and her voice comes out as a rasping, guttural whisper. You open the door, she says, her lips pulling back to reveal blood-stained teeth. Now it's time to walk through. The floor beneath you trembles, the walls shuddering violently. The air is thick with the scent of wet earth and rot. You glance at the bachelor. He's on his knees now, his hands tangled in his hair, his eyes fixed on the ground. We have to get out, you say, grabbing his arm. Now, but he doesn't move. He just shakes his head, rocking back and forth, his eyes wide and unfocused. She's inside me, he says, his voice trembling. She's inside me. I can feel her. The walls crack deep fissures, snaking up from the floor to the ceiling. The house groans, the very foundation shifting beneath you. And then, from behind the walls, the whispers start again. Let me in, let me in. The bachelor's head snaps up, his eyes rolling back in his head. His mouth falls open, and from his throat comes that same guttural rasp. Let me in. His body convulses, his limbs jerking, as though pulled by invisible strings. you grab his shoulders, shaking him. "Fight it," you shout. "Fight her." But he's gone. His eyes are black now, dark as the void, dark as the mirror. And when he speaks, it is not his voice that comes out. "You took my place," he says, his head lolling to one side. "Now it's your turn." The shadows surge forward, pouring from the walls, the floor, the ceiling. They wrap around your legs, your arms, your neck, pulling you down, down into the dark. And as the world goes black, you hear Margaret's voice echoing through the abyss. "You brought me back," she whispers, her voice soft and cold. "Now you belong to me." Darkness. Endless, consuming darkness. You're falling, tumbling through a void that stretches forever in every direction. The air is heavy, thick as oil, pressing against your skin, filling your lungs with cold, wet rot. You claw at the emptiness, grasping for something, anything to hold on to. But there's nothing, just dark, and then a voice. "Help me." It's the bachelor. His voice is faint, weak, drifting through the void like a fading echo. You spin around your eyes, searching the blackness. "Where are you?" You call your voice, echoing endlessly. Where? A hand grabs your wrist. You gasp, your skin prickling with cold. The bachelor is there, his face hovering inches from yours, his eyes dark and glassy. He's shivering, his lips blue, his hair damp and plastered to his forehead. "You have to close it," he whispers, his breath fogging the air between you. It's the only way to stop her. "What you say?" your voice shaking. "Close what?" "The door," he says, his fingers tightening around your wrist. "The mirror." "You have to close the door." The ground shifts beneath you, the darkness swirling the air, thickening with the scent of wet earth. You blink, and suddenly, you're standing in the parlor again. The room is dark. The candles extinguished, the walls sagging inward, as though the entire house is collapsing under its own weight. The bachelor is beside you, his chest heaving, his eyes darting around the room. "Where is she?" He mutters, his voice tight. "Where is she?" A low, guttural moan echoes through the room, the sound coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. You spin around, your heart pounding your eyes, straining to pierce the shadows. And then you see her. Margaret stands in the center of the room, her gown torn and stained with black, oily fluid. Her hair hangs in wet, tangled clumps around her face, her eyes black and bottomless. In her hand, she holds the silver locket. The chain dangles, swinging back and forth like a pendulum, and the metal gleams like wet bone. "You opened the door," she says, her voice layered and echoing as though 100 voices are speaking through her. "Now you have to close it." The bachelor steps forward, his hands shaking. "Margaret," he says, his voice breaking. "Please, let her go. Take me. You can take me." Margaret tilts her head, her eyes locking onto him. "Take you," she says, her lips curling into a slow, terrible smile. "You already gave yourself to me." The ground shakes the walls, shuddering violently. Dust rains down from the ceiling, the floorboards groaning beneath your feet. Margaret takes a step forward, her eyes locked onto yours. "You're the only one left," she says, raising the locket. "You brought me back. Now it's time to finish it." The locket snaps open, and the air is filled with a blinding white light. You shield your eyes, the light burning through your eyelids, searing into your skull. The room spins the walls, stretching and warping, as the light engulfs everything. And then the light goes out. You are standing in a room that is both familiar and completely wrong. It's the parlor, but it's not. The walls are covered in dark, wet stains. The floorboards warped and rotting. The air is thick with the scent of mold and decay, and the only light comes from a single flickering candle in the center of the room. Margaret is there standing beside the mirror, but she's not alone. The shadows are with her, their dark, amorphous forms writhing around her like living smoke. Faces emerge from the darkness, gaunt, hollow-eyed mouths open in silent screams. Their hands reach out clutching at the air at you. Margaret holds up the locket, the chain wrapped around her wrist like a noose. "You brought me back," she says, her voice a low guttural rasp. "Now you finish it." The bachelor steps forward, his face pale and drawn, his eyes dark and empty. "Don't do it," he says, his voice shaking. "Don't open it again." Margaret tilts her head, her dark eyes flashing. "You don't get a choice," she says. She raises the locket higher, and the mirror ripples its surface, swirling like black water. Shadows surge forward, pressing against the glass, their hands clawing at the surface, their eyes wild and hungry. "You brought us here," Margaret says, her voice rising. "Now it's your turn to come through." The ground trembles beneath you, the walls shuddering violently. The mirror bulges outward, the glass stretching as though something massive is pressing against it from the other side. "Close it," the bachelor says, his voice desperate. "You have to close it, but you can't move." The shadows are everywhere, their hands clutching at your arms, your legs, your throat. The mirror stretches its glass, cracking the surface, distorting as a face presses through. Margaret's face. Her mouth opens a black void, her eyes fixed on you. "Let me in." You scream, your hands flying to your ears, but the sound is inside your head, inside your bones. The mirror explodes outward, shards of glass slicing through the air like shrapnel. You dive to the floor, your arms covering your head as the shards rain down around you, embedding in the walls, the floor, your skin. When the dust settles, you lift your head. The mirror is gone. The room is empty. The shadows are gone. You sit up slowly, your breath coming in shallow gasps. The air is cold, too cold, and the only sound is the wind howling through the shattered windows. The bachelor is lying on the floor, motionless, his eyes closed. You crawl to him, your hands shaking. "Hey," you say, your voice breaking. "Are you?" His eyes snap open. They're black, black as ink, black as the void. "You took my place," he says, his lips twisting into a grin that is not his own. "Now you're mine." And then the walls close and the room collapsing around you, the air thickening until you can't breathe. The bachelor's hands shoot out, grabbing your wrists, his nails digging into your skin. "You opened the door," he says, his voice echoing through the room. "Now it's time to walk through." The floor crumbles beneath you and you fall, the world spinning, Margaret's laughter echoing all around you. And then nothing, just dark. The room is still now, the air heavy and hushed, as though the house itself is finally at rest. You feel the cool wooden floor beneath you, its surface worn smooth with age, as you lie back and let your eyes drift closed. The shadows that once danced across the walls have melted away, fading into the dim, flickering light of a single candle that casts its gentle glow around the room. You breathe in deeply, letting the chill in the air soften and dissipate, each breath slower and deeper than the last. Somewhere far away, a soft wind sighs through the cracks in the old windows, a soothing, rhythmic sound that rises and falls, like the waves of a distant sea. You can almost hear the creak of old wooden beams settling, as though the house is finally exhaling a long-held breath. Everything is quieter. now quieter than it has been all night. The whispers have faded to nothing, leaving only the gentle hum of silence, a soft, calming lull that wraps around you like a warm, heavy blanket. You feel the weight of your eyelids growing heavier, your limbs sinking deeper into the floor, the world slipping further away with each slow, steady breath. And as you lie there, the last embers of the candle flicker and dance, casting tiny golden sparks that drift upward like fireflies, each one winking out one by one, until all that's left is the soft, endless dark. Let yourself float, let yourself sink, let yourself drift away. Sweet dreams.